The ballroom glittered with opulence, every detail meticulously crafted to evoke a sense of grandeur. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm, golden light over the sea of elegantly dressed guests, their laughter and conversation creating a hum of conviviality that contrasted sharply with the tension simmering beneath the surface. I stood by the grand piano, my fingers lightly brushing the polished wood as I tried to blend into the background. Tonight was supposed to be a celebration, a gala to mark the launch of a new charity initiative. Instead, it felt like the beginning of a storm I couldn't escape. Jonathan, the man whose presence had loomed over my life for the past 2 years, was across the room, his gaze fixed on me with a mix of anger and something else, something I couldn't quite place. His eyes, usually so composed and commanding, were now narrow slits of barely contained fury. The source of his ire was clear, the small diamond ring that glittered on my finger. It was a gift from Alex, a symbol of a fleeting connection that had somehow managed to cause the storm that now raged in Jonathan's eyes. The ring was a stark reminder of the life I was trying to build beyond the shadows of Jonathan's influence, but for him, it was an affront, a betrayal of something he felt was rightfully his. As Jonathan approached, the crowd parted like the Red Sea, their murmurs of curiosity trailing in his wake. His steps were deliberate, each one a beat in a symphony of unspoken confrontation. He reached me, his expression a blend of indignation and something darker. "You think this," he started, his voice low and seething, "this ring means something? You're wearing it here, flaunting it in front of everyone?" I tried to steady my breath, feeling the weight of his gaze like a physical pressure. "Jonathan, it's just a ring. It doesn't change anything." His face flushed with anger, and before I could react, he grabbed a glass of wine from a nearby waiter. In a swift, fluid motion, he upended it over my head, the red liquid cascading down my dress in a dramatic, humiliating arc. The room fell silent, all eyes fixed on the scene unfolding before them. The wine seeped into the fabric of my gown, its chill seeping through to my skin. I felt a sharp sting as it made contact with my bare shoulders, and the murmurs of the crowd grew louder, a chorus of gasps and whispered speculation. The humiliation was suffocating, a sharp contrast to the grandiosity of the setting. Before we continue with the story, I want to ask for a favor. It's been my childhood dream to reach 1,000 subscribers, and it would mean the world to me if you could help make that dream come true by subscribing to the channel. Thank you so much. And now back to the video. Jonathan's gaze was fixed on the ring as if it were the source of all his suffering. His eyes flashed with a mixture of betrayal and rage. "You think you're better than me now? That this," he gestured to the ring, "makes you special?" I could feel the eyes of the guests boring into me, their curiosity a relentless force. I wanted to disappear, to escape the weight of Jonathan's anger and the stares of the crowd. But more than that, I wanted him to understand that the ring was not a weapon against him, but a symbol of something I had fought so hard to achieve. "Jonathan, this isn't about you," I said, my voice trembling despite my efforts to remain calm. "It's about me finding my own way." His face twisted in a mix of anger and disbelief. "Finding your own way?" He laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "Is that what you call it? You think you can just walk away from everything and start fresh?" The room seemed to close in around us, the opulence of the gala now a backdrop to the personal drama that was unfolding. The guests whispered among themselves, their eyes flickering between Jonathan and me, their fascination tinged with pity. As Jonathan's words cut through the air, I felt a surge of defiance rise within me. The ring on my finger, though small and seemingly insignificant, represented a future I had fought to claim. A future beyond the shadows of Jonathan's influence. I would not let him take that from me. "Jonathan," I said, meeting his gaze with a steady look, "if you're here to remind me of my past, then I think it's time for us both to move on." His expression darkened, and for a moment I thought he might lash out further. But then, as quickly as it had come, his anger seemed to dissipate, replaced by a cold, calculating look. He turned on his heel, walking away with a final, contemptuous glance over his shoulder. The crowd's murmurs grew louder as they watched him leave, their attention now fully focused on the aftermath of his dramatic exit. I stood there feeling the weight of the wine-soaked dress and the sting of humiliation, but also a flicker of resolve. Jonathan's actions had only strengthened my determination to embrace the future I had fought so hard to build. As I made my way to the restroom, the whispers and stares followed me like shadows. I needed to compose myself, to regain some semblance of dignity before facing the world outside. But even as I tried to clean the wine from my dress, I couldn't shake the feeling that this confrontation was only the beginning of a much larger struggle. The weight of the ring on my finger felt heavier than ever, a symbol of both my triumphs and the battles yet to come. And as I looked at my reflection in the mirror, I knew that no matter how difficult the path ahead might be, I was ready to face it. The restroom was a haven of white tiles and soft lighting, a stark contrast to the chaos of the ballroom. I closed the door behind me and leaned against it, taking a deep breath. The sound of my rapid breathing was almost deafening in the stillness. My reflection in the mirror was a portrait of disarray. The wine stained my gown in angry red splotches, and my eyes were wide with a mixture of shock and hurt. I fumbled with the paper towels, trying to blot away the worst of the wine, but the fabric was already heavily soaked. The more I tried to clean it, the more the stain seemed to spread. I could feel the sting of the wine on my skin, a reminder of the public spectacle Jonathan had created. The humiliation burned deeper than the liquid ever could. It wasn't just the wine. It was the look in Jonathan's eyes, the way he had so effortlessly torn away any semblance of dignity I had left. I had spent years navigating his world, trying to stay just out of his shadow, only to be dragged back into it by his anger over something as simple as a ring. As I dabbed at the stain, my mind raced back to the earlier days, before the accident, before the ring, before everything had become so complicated. I remembered a time when Jonathan's touch had been warm, when his words had held promises of something more than just power and prestige. But that was before the world had changed, before everything had been marred by pain and betrayal. The door to the restroom opened, and a woman in a sleek black dress stepped in, her eyes narrowing as she took in the sight of me. Caroline, her presence was like a needle to an open wound. I barely had time to react before she was standing beside me, her gaze fixed on my ruined gown. "Isla," she said, her voice dripping with a mixture of concern and condescension. I saw what happened. Jonathan can be quite impulsive. Her tone was almost too gentle, as though she were speaking to a child who had broken a favorite toy. I looked at her in the mirror, meeting her eyes with a steely resolve. "He did it to make a point," I said quietly. "He wanted me to know he still has control over me, even if it's just through humiliation." Caroline's expression shifted, a flicker of something, guilt, perhaps, crossing her face. "He's been struggling, Isla. It's not easy for him." I snorted softly. "Struggling?" I repeated. "He's the one who threw me into this mess, not the other way around." Caroline sighed, stepping closer. She took a tentative hand towards the hem of my gown, her fingers brushing against the wine stain. "Jonathan's pain and his actions aren't excuses for what he did. I'm sorry he made you go through this." I wasn't sure if her sympathy was genuine or if it was just another layer of her public facade, but something in her eyes told me that, for once, she might actually be sincere. "Why are you really here, Caroline?" I asked. To gloat or to offer some hollow apology? Her gaze softened, and she seemed to struggle with her words. "I came to see if you were all right. I never meant for any of this to happen. I know Jonathan's actions have been destructive." I managed a faint, humorless smile. "Well, he's certainly succeeded in that regard. I suppose you're here to make sure the show goes on without further incident?" Caroline's expression grew more earnest. "I want to help, Isla. I know it's not much, but..." She hesitated, then reached into her purse and pulled out a small card. "Here's my number. If you need anything, please don't hesitate to call." I took the card, feeling the weight of her gesture, though it did little to alleviate the sting of the evening's events. "Thank you," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "but I think I need to figure things out on my own." She nodded, understanding. "I get it. If you change your mind, I'm here." As Caroline left, I was left alone with my reflection, the hum of the gala faintly audible through the restroom door. I took a moment to steady myself, my breathing slow and measured. The wine stain was a harsh reminder of the personal war I was waging, a battle that seemed far from over. I walked out of the restroom, my steps hesitant but resolute. The ballroom was still abuzz with activity, the guests oblivious to the turmoil that had just unfolded. Jonathan's departure had left a void, but it was one that I would have to fill with my own strength. I spotted Alex near the edge of the dance floor, his presence a stark contrast to the chaos that had just transpired. He looked up as I approached, his expression a mixture of curiosity and concern. "Isla," he said, his voice low. "Are you all right?" I nodded, though my heart wasn't entirely in it. "I'm fine, just trying to get through the evening." Alex's gaze lingered on me, his eyes sharp with an unspoken question. "Do you need to leave? We can go if you're not up to staying." I shook my head, forcing a smile. "No, I'll stay. I need to face this to prove that I'm not going to let Jonathan's actions dictate my evening." Alex's lips curved into a faint smile, a rare sight. "All right then, but if you need anything, just let me know." I appreciated his offer, though I wasn't sure if I was ready to accept help. As the night wore on, I remained at the gala, my thoughts a whirlwind of emotions. Jonathan's anger, Caroline's unexpected kindness, and Alex's steady presence all swirled together, creating a complex tapestry of relationships and feelings. And through it all, the weight of the ring on my finger was a constant reminder of the choices I had made, the paths I had chosen, and the battles that still lay ahead. The night was far from over, and as I navigated the glittering chaos of the gala, I knew that this was only the beginning of a much larger struggle, a struggle that would test not just my resolve, but my very sense of self. The hours dragged on, each tick of the clock seeming louder than the last. The gala was a dazzling affair, but for me it had become a stage for my personal agony. The guests mingled and danced, their laughter and chatter a stark contrast to the inner turmoil that I carried with me. Alex remained by my side, a silent guardian through the evening. He seemed to sense my need for a reprieve from the crowd. We stood near the grand staircase, observing the spectacle from a distance. The lights cast a golden hue over the scene, creating an almost surreal atmosphere. "Isla," Alex said softly, drawing me from my thoughts. "Are you sure you're okay? I can get you something to drink or—" "I'm fine," I interrupted, forcing a smile. "Really, Alex, I just need to get through tonight." He studied me for a moment before nodding. "All right, just let me know if you change your mind." I took a deep breath, trying to focus on the positive aspects of the evening. Alex's support, though reserved, was a small comfort amidst the chaos. I had to remind myself that I wasn't alone, even if the pain felt overwhelming. My gaze wandered over the room, eventually landing on Jonathan and Caroline. They were the center of attention, their presence commanding the room. Jonathan was dressed in a tailored suit, his posture rigid as he spoke with a group of well-wishers. Caroline, by his side, was the epitome of elegance in a floor-length gown that sparkled under the lights. It was clear that Jonathan's anger was not only directed at me, but at the entire world. His demeanor was icy, his interactions curt. The fire that had burned so brightly in his eyes earlier seemed to have cooled, replaced by a cold, distant look. Caroline, though calm and composed, had a hint of unease in her posture. Her earlier act of kindness was now overshadowed by the complexity of the situation. As I watched them, I felt a strange mix of sympathy and resentment. Jonathan's pain was evident, but it was his actions that had pushed me to the brink. The weight of his expectations and the depth of his betrayal were more than I could easily brush aside. The night wore on, and the guests began to thin out. The gala was winding down, but the atmosphere remained charged with lingering excitement. The band played a slow, haunting melody, and couples began to take to the dance floor, their movements graceful and fluid. Alex turned to me, a thoughtful expression on his face. "I think we should leave soon," he said. "The evening's winding down, and I'd like to make sure you get home safely." I nodded, grateful for his presence. "That sounds like a good idea. Let's go." As we made our way through the ballroom, I glanced once more at Jonathan and Caroline. Jonathan's gaze met mine briefly, and for a fleeting moment, there was something almost vulnerable in his eyes. But it was gone as quickly as it had appeared. replaced by the same guarded expression he had worn all evening. Alex guided me to the exit, his hand gently resting on the small of my back. The cool night air was a welcome relief from the stifling heat of the ballroom. We stepped into the street, the sounds of the city a sharp contrast to the elegant cocoon we had just left behind. A sleek black car was waiting at the curb, and Alex held the door open for me. As I settled into the plush seat, I felt a wave of exhaustion wash over me. The events of the evening had drained me, and I was eager to retreat to a quieter space. The drive was smooth and uneventful, the city lights flickering past the window. I leaned back, closing my eyes for a moment, trying to process everything that had happened. The taste of the wine still lingered on my tongue, a bitter reminder of the evening's chaos. When we arrived at Alex's home, his grandmother greeted us warmly, her presence a comforting balm. She offered me a cup of tea and a gentle smile, her kindness a stark contrast to the coldness I had experienced earlier. "Thank you, Mrs. Booth," I said, accepting the tea with a grateful smile. "I appreciate your hospitality." She patted my hand gently. "You're always welcome here, Isla. I know it's been a difficult evening, but remember that you have friends who care about you." I nodded, her words a small but significant comfort. Alex led me to a guest room, ensuring that I was settled in comfortably before heading back downstairs. Alone in the quiet of the room, I took a deep breath and allowed myself to relax. The events of the evening replayed in my mind, a jumble of emotions and memories. Jonathan's anger, Caroline's unexpected kindness, and Alex's steady support all mingled together, creating a complex tapestry of feelings. I glanced at the small card Caroline had given me, now resting on the nightstand. Her gesture had been sincere, but I still wasn't sure what to make of it. The ring, the stain on my gown, and Jonathan's harsh words all seemed like distant echoes in the stillness of the night. As I drifted off to sleep, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a much larger journey. The complexities of my relationships with Jonathan, Caroline, and Alex were far from resolved. The road ahead would be challenging, but for now, all I could do was rest and prepare for whatever came next. The morning after the gala arrived with a gentle golden light filtering through the curtains of the guest room. I awoke feeling like I had only just closed my eyes. The events of the previous night felt surreal, as though I had been caught in a whirlwind of emotions, and was only now beginning to come to terms with the aftermath. Alex's grandmother had already left for her daily routine by the time I descended the stairs. The house was quiet, a stark contrast to the bustling city life outside. I wandered into the kitchen where a pot of fresh coffee brewed, its rich aroma filling the air. Alex joined me soon after, dressed in a casual shirt and jeans. He looked more relaxed today, his usual seriousness softened by the morning light. "Good morning," he said, pouring himself a cup of coffee. "How are you feeling?" "Better, thank you," I replied, taking a seat at the breakfast table. "Last night was overwhelming, but I'm getting there." He nodded, his eyes thoughtful. "I'm glad to hear that. If you need anything—" "I know," I interrupted gently. "I appreciate it, Alex. I really do." We chatted idly as we had breakfast, the conversation drifting from mundane topics to more personal reflections. The atmosphere was comfortable, and for a moment, I almost forgot the turmoil that had unfolded the previous night. But as we finished our meal, the weight of reality began to settle back in. Alex cleared his throat, his expression turning serious. "Isla, I want to talk about last night. I know it was a lot to handle." I met his gaze, nodding. "I appreciate your concern. It was more than I anticipated." "Jonathan has a way of making things complicated," Alex said. "I know you've been through a lot with him, and I don't want to make things harder for you. But I need you to know that you don't have to face this alone. If you need a break from everything, you're welcome to stay here as long as you need." The offer was generous, and though I was grateful, a part of me felt a pang of guilt. "Thank you, Alex. It means a lot, but I'm not sure how long I'll be here. I need to figure out my next steps." "I understand," he said, his tone softening. "Just know that the invitation stands. Sometimes having a place to go can make a difference." We finished our coffee in companionable silence. I was grateful for Alex's support, but couldn't help feeling that there was more to come. The complexities of my relationship with Jonathan were far from resolved, and the gala had only deepened the fissures between us. As the morning wore on, I decided to take a walk to clear my mind. The city had a way of offering perspective. Its hustle and bustle, a reminder of the world beyond my immediate struggles. I wandered through a nearby park, letting the cool breeze and the sight of children playing ease my thoughts. Lost in contemplation, I was startled by the sudden vibration of my phone. I fished it out of my pocket and saw a message from an unknown number. "We need to talk. Meet me at the cafe on 5th Avenue at noon. Jonathan." The message sent a jolt through me. Jonathan wanted to meet. The emotions I had been trying to keep at bay surged to the forefront. My heart raced as I considered the implications of this unexpected request. Part of me wanted to avoid the confrontation altogether, but another part of me felt compelled to face it head-on. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm of thoughts in my head. Meeting Jonathan might provide the closure I needed, or it might open up new wounds. Either way, it was a conversation that couldn't be ignored. I returned to Alex's home, my mind made up. "I have to meet someone," I told him as I prepared to leave. "Jonathan wants to talk. I don't know what he's planning, but I need to find out." Alex's expression turned serious. "Are you sure you want to go alone? I can come with you if you'd like." I shook my head, appreciating the offer, but feeling the need to face this on my own. "Thank you, Alex, but I think I need to do this by myself." He nodded, his concern evident. "All right, just be careful. And remember, if you need anything, I'm here." I promised to be cautious and left for the cafe. The streets were busier now, and the city's energy seemed to match my heightened emotions. The cafe on 5th Avenue was a cozy, understated place, known for its quiet ambiance and excellent coffee. As I approached, my nerves were on edge. I entered the cafe and spotted Jonathan seated at a corner table, his back to the window. He looked up as I approached, his expression a mix of anticipation and apprehension. I took a seat opposite him, the silence between us thick and heavy. "Isla," Jonathan began, his voice softer than I expected. "Thank you for coming." I nodded, trying to keep my composure. "What did you want to talk about?" Jonathan hesitated, running a hand through his hair. "I know last night was difficult. I wanted to apologize for how things went. I didn't mean to make you feel humiliated." I took a deep breath, struggling to maintain my calm. "It wasn't just about the gala, Jonathan. It's everything. The way you treated me, the expectations you placed on me. I've been carrying the weight of that for a long time." Jonathan's eyes softened. "I know I've made mistakes. I thought I could control everything. But I see now that I've hurt you in ways I didn't fully understand. I'm sorry for that." The apology was a start, but it wasn't enough to erase the past. Apologies are a step, but they don't change what happened. I've had to deal with a lot because of you, and I need to know if this is just about the past or if you're looking for something more now. Jonathan's gaze was intense, his voice earnest. "I don't know what the future holds, Isla, but I want to make amends. I want to understand what you need and how I can help." I studied him, weighing his sincerity. I need time. I need to figure out what's next for me. And I need to know that I can move forward without being held back by our past. Jonathan nodded slowly. "I understand. Take the time you need. I'll be here if you decide you want to talk more." The conversation ended with an uneasy truce. Jonathan's willingness to apologize was a step forward, but it left me with more questions than answers. I thanked him and left the cafe, the weight of the meeting settling heavily on my shoulders. As I walked back to Alex's home, I felt a mix of relief and uncertainty. Jonathan's apology was a start, but it was clear that the road ahead was still fraught with challenges. For now, I needed to focus on finding my own path and reclaiming my sense of self. The city's energy seemed to pulse in time with my thoughts, each step a reminder of the journey I was on. The future was uncertain, but I was determined to face it with the strength and clarity I had found within myself. The weeks that followed the meeting with Jonathan were a whirlwind of reflection and transition. The apology had been a significant moment, but it was only the beginning of a long journey toward healing and self-discovery. I spent my days sorting through my thoughts and emotions, trying to piece together a sense of clarity amidst the chaos. Alex's home became a refuge, a place where I could think and plan my next steps away from the prying eyes of the city. Alex himself remained a steadfast friend, offering support and space as needed. Our interactions were marked by a growing sense of mutual understanding and respect, and I began to see him in a new light. One crisp morning, as I walked through the park near Alex's house, I felt a shift within me. The cool autumn air, the vibrant colors of the changing leaves, and the gentle hum of life around me seemed to signal a fresh start. I took a deep breath, savoring the feeling of liberation that had begun to take root in my heart. It was during these walks that I started to formulate a plan for the future. I wanted to focus on myself, on my passions and ambitions that had been overshadowed for so long. My past with Jonathan had been a complex chapter, but it was time to turn the page and write a new one. One afternoon, I found myself sitting in a quaint little cafe, a place I had frequented during my time in the city. The atmosphere was warm and inviting, and I had come here to do something I had put off for far too long, to start writing again. As I opened my laptop and began typing, the words flowed effortlessly. I poured my heart into a story that had been brewing in my mind for years, a narrative that reflected the journey I had been on and the strength I had discovered within myself. It was a cathartic experience, one that allowed me to reclaim my voice and express the emotions I had been holding inside. Alex joined me at the cafe later that day, bringing with him a small bouquet of flowers. "For your new beginning," he said with a smile, placing the flowers on the table. "Thank you, Alex," I said, touched by the gesture. "It means a lot to me." As we chatted about my writing and the future, I felt a sense of peace and optimism. The road ahead was still uncertain, but I was ready to face it with courage and determination. My past with Jonathan would always be a part of me, but it no longer defined who I was. The following weeks brought new opportunities and challenges. I started working on my writing full-time, taking on freelance projects, and exploring different genres. The creative process became a source of joy and fulfillment, allowing me to channel my experiences into something meaningful. One evening, as I walked through the park once more, I saw a familiar face in the distance. Jonathan was there, his figure silhouetted against the setting sun. He approached me with a hesitant smile, and I felt a pang of nostalgia. "Isla," he said softly, "I wanted to see how you're doing. I've been following your progress, and I'm genuinely happy for you." "Thank you, Jonathan," I replied, my voice steady. "I'm doing well. I'm focusing on my writing and finding my way." He nodded, his expression a mixture of regret and understanding. "I'm glad to hear that. I know I've made mistakes, but I hope you find the happiness you deserve." We shared a moment of silent acknowledgement, and then Jonathan turned and walked away, his figure gradually fading into the twilight. It was a fitting end to our chapter, a moment of closure and acceptance. As I continued my walk through the park, I felt a sense of liberation and hope. The future was mine to shape, and I was ready to embrace it with open arms. The journey had been difficult, but it had led me to a place of self-discovery and renewal. Under the canopy of stars that night, I made a silent promise to myself to continue growing, to pursue my dreams with passion, and to cherish the new beginnings that lay ahead. The road ahead would be filled with challenges and triumphs, but I was ready to face it all with the strength and resilience I had found within myself. And so, as the dawn of a new chapter broke, I stepped into the future with a heart full of hope and a spirit ready to embrace the endless possibilities that awaited.